Hello again, everybody. The next car that you've selected to view, Jeremy, where are we at today?
ClassicMuscleCars.com.
We are actually at ClassicMuscleCars.com. We've been on the road and we've been traveling so much, I'm surprised we're here today for once, right?
It's something different.
Man, we've been all over.
We've been doing
shows and auctions. But it's going to be cool because when you see the new season of shows that are going to be airing on ClassicMuscleCars.com and Comcast here in Chicago, we're going to have some exciting stuff for you, and we've met a lot of really awesome people, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, we sure have.
Now, I want to talk about this car I'm standing next to. We're way behind in doing a video on this car. We've had this car for quite a while. But you know what? We wanted to wait until we got some nice weather, and it's a beautiful day outside. We can't take this car outside because it's too gorgeous and it's too nice to take it outside. It's black. And black is really hard to keep clean sometimes if you get out in the bad weather and dust and stuff like that. So we want to keep it in here, right, Jeremy?
Yep, saves a lot of time and trouble for our detailing people.
Absolutely. And we've got the cars sitting in between our two Indy Pace cars, Z10 hardtop, 375 4-speed, and the 375 L78 convertible. So here is three awesome Camaros. And if you get a chance, folks, you want to come up here and take a look-see, because this is an opportunity you won't see anywhere. Pair of 375 Indy Pace cars, nada, nowhere. Only ones, hardtop, convertible, that I know of I've ever seen. Period. This one is a replica, and this is not a real ZL1 Camaro, because if it was a real ZL1 Camaro, we'd be asking about $1.2 million, $1.3 million. These cars are really, really expensive today. Now, we're going to show you this car, and I'm also going to tell you a little bit about the Coupe car, how it got started, what it's all about, and I'm going to give you some insight. Now, Fred Gibb was one of the Chevy dealers in Illinois, of all places, but farther south than where we're at here in Chicago, that originally came up with the idea to get the ZL1 Camaro. Don Yanko in Ohio was the first dealer that convinced GM that we need to get some really high-performance cars out to sell to the public, and he made a deal to come out with the famous Yanko Camaros, that he was the one that was initially the one that got all of that started. But Fred Gibb, after that, went into Chevy and said, hey, you know what? I could sell these cars if you'll put an aluminum block 427 in the ZL1 Camaro. So that's what really got this started. I'm going to be going over a little bit of the history about what Fred Gibb did. But I want to tell you something that's real interesting that I know. And when you're in this business and you're in it for a long time, you hear stories and you get them straight from the horse's mouth. And I do know, way back when these cars first came to Fred Gibb Chevrolet, the first ones that he ordered, he had one truckload that came in. And it was late at night in December, and it was freezing cold. It was like 20 below zero with the wind chill factor. They fired up the first car, pulled it off the truck, brought it inside, and it was so cold that it split the engine block. So there was a lot of the original ZL1s that unfortunately, because of the weather conditions, didn't make it to the dealership without any damage. And they didn't have a whole lot of service motors. So having a original ZL1 block, having a ZL1 block period, to find an all-aluminum block is a very rare thing to be able to do today, and that's what we're going to be talking about with this car. Now, this car is black with red interior. It's been pulled apart. The front dog house is off. The whole car has been totally detailed. It's got a great run ZL1 427 aluminum motor in it. Now, it has GM performance heads on it, which are not correct for the original ZL1, but it makes it a car that you can get out and put pump gas in it and run it, folks. That's the important thing. With this car, and Jeremy's going to show you this. Get the camera down there, Jeremy.
Yep, check it out.
We have an original set of heads that matches to this engine, okay? These are numbers, date codes, everything is right, and they're virgin, folks. They have never been put on a car. This is the original NOS, real deal parts, and it's kind of cool because when Jeremy goes around, I want him to show you the sticker because it says off-road use. You won't see very many of these around because this is something that laid up on a parts shelf for years and years and years, and we were fortunate enough to get them to match it and put it together with the car. This car was built with the intention of being able to drive it. Okay, if you've got an original ZL1 and you're going to drive it, they're worth so much money today that unfortunately a lot of the cars are never going to be driven. This is the same thing virtually that you can get out and drive and enjoy it. and it is awesome. I mean, the people that come up and look at it, it's just like astounded. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous car. Now, also, I want to let you know that the restoration on the car has been done pretty correct. This is a non-code car, or I'm sorry, it's an X44 code car, which is like most of the data plates that you would see for the original Z01s. You would see on there that it would be an X44 code car. So there was a lot of base codes that were used for the Z01s. Also, the grille, this is all correct. This car's got some bumper guards. It's radio delete. It's got disc brakes on it, which are manual. It's just an awesome car. So now I'm going to turn you over to Jeremy. He's going to give you a complete go-around of the Z01, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history about Fred Gibb Chevrolet, the creator of the famous 1969 aluminum block 427 Z01 Camaro. Fred Gibb Chevrolet originally created the Copo 9560 Camaro by arranging the deal with Chevrolet and placing the initial order of 50 units. All of them were identical except for the exterior color and transmissions, and obviously the interior colors. The unexpected high price at delivery caused Fred Gibb to be able to sell only 13 units himself, while the remaining units were redistributed throughout all the other dealers in the United States. Now, let me point out something to you. These cars, when they got to Fred Gibb Chevrolet, were over $7,000 sticker price. For a 69 Camaro in 1969, that was an astronomical amount of money. It's unbelievable. Now, the final production of the 69 Copo 9560Z01 Camaro was a total of 69, and it was all distributed to 41 different Chevrolet dealers. The original Gibb 50 were units 1 through 52, with the exception of number 3 and number 51. And remember, he sold 13 cars, and the rest of them had to be absorbed through the rest of the Chevy dealers in that network of 41 different Chevrolet dealers. And these were all high-performance dealers, you know. Yanko Chevrolet would have got some, Baldwin Motion Chevrolet, Nicky Chevrolet, Dana Chevrolet, Berger Chevrolet. The known high-performance Chevy dealers would have gotten some of it. The Copo 9560 option was ordered from data analysis of vehicles with only mandatory options that were the J52 disc brakes and the base SS with 14x7 standard steel rims with dog dish hubcaps, and that's like the car that we have here. Now, this was also covered in the price range for the package for the 9560s. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Z01 in terms of what makes this car different. If you got a 69 Z01 Camaro, it was basically an SS 396, but they took the Super Sport option out and the 396 option out, and instead they put in the Z01, and it was just a basically stripped down Camaro that was still a Super Sport without the badges and without the 396. Now, these cars handled a whole lot better than the original 396 cast iron motors, because the engine was approximately 500 pounds was the weight. So that was a lot lighter than the big blocks, and it put the engine weight at about the same as the 327. So handling was great, and because of the less weight and the more power, brake horsepower, the cars were able to run about 12 seconds to the quarter mile, which was incredible for a street car that you could buy with 500 horsepower in 1969. These cars were awesome. Again, I want to reiterate that you'd have to have a huge bank account back then to be able to afford a Z01 Camaro. That's the reason why they didn't sell so many of these cars, and it took a while to sell them. The engine was all aluminum, and it saved a lot of weight over the cast iron 427s, and it was virtually hand built. The engine alone cost $4,160. That was the engine option that was added to the base Camaro, but again, it started out as an SS 396 Camaro. Z01s left the factory with lots of mismatched parts because the owners were expected to do a lot of race development themselves. Therefore, the stock exhaust manifolds would restrict the flow of exhaust gases and were usually among the first items that were replaced, and in my case, like I did with my Chevelle and my pollution equipment, thrown in the garbage because I wasn't going to use it back then, and now it's worth a whole lot of money. But unfortunately, that's what happened. They had to have the cars to breathe, and these cars were built basically to either A, street race, or B, to compete in NHRA super stock drag racing events. Now, all the Z01s were equipped with a heavy-duty F41 suspension, front disc brakes. that let the cars handle a little bit better, and they had 450 pounds of torque from the powerful 427 aluminum engine, which was rated, if you got it on a dyno, at a little over 500 horsepower. They also had 12 bolts in the back with 410 gears, and let me tell you, if you've ever driven one of these cars, they're awesome. They had 2 transmissions only. They had the M22 Rock Crusher, and they had the Turbo 400 trans. With both of these trans were the only 2 trans that GM had to be able to put into these cars to be able to take the extreme amount of torque that these engines were capable of. The Z01 was an exotic big block. Now what we're talking about, the Z01 was unlike any other engine that GM ever made at that time. The engine is roughly equivalent to the L78 Corvette racing V8, but was aluminum instead of a cast iron block. The assembly consisted of forged steel crankshaft forged pistons that slide in a steel cylinder liners in the block and 4-bolt main bearing caps. The aluminum cylinder heads have closed chambered heads and rectangle intake ports. A Holley 850 CFM 4-barrel carburetor set up on top of the massive engine to feed it with the fuel that it needed to really get out and run, and these cars are awesome. Now, the Z01s are also ranked with the Hemi Cuda convertible and the Ram Air 4 GTOs as one of the most desirable muscle cars ever produced. With only 69 of them built with all aluminum engines, they attract a premium price and often trade hands in excess now in today's market of over $1 million.